Hello, welcome to Turkish Philanthropy Forum's another episode of Voices with Partners. I am your host, Elmira Bayrasli, and today we have another one of TPF's partner organizations that's based in Turkey that we're going to talk to. We're focusing today on Hayata Destek, which is support to life in English. And we are joined by Sema Karaosmanoğlu, who is the executive director at Hayata Destek, where she's also a board member and has been involved with the organization since 1997. She has a wealth of information. She has a wealth of experience. She's been working in the field of humanitarian aid for over 22 years. And she's worked in India, Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, and worked with a number of different aid and development agencies. She is now continuing her work in Turkey, but she also contributes on a variety of different projects worldwide. And she's actually one of the founding members of Hayata Destek. And so I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about what exactly that is. We're also joined by Onur Karayal, who is the co-founder of Turkey's Educated Kids. And we're going to learn a little bit more about what that is in just a little while. After working in medicine for over 30 years, he is now focused on supporting Turkish girls' education. A few years ago, Onur and a group of Turkish gentlemen began to gather in New York City and talked about how they could actually make a difference in Turkey. And I think they landed on the importance of actually supporting young women, young girls in Turkey. And we're really grateful for that. The group created a giving circle at TPF and has successfully been taking part in supporting girls' education programs through TPF partner organizations. And we have an exciting announcement that the Turkey's Educated Kids project will provide a matching gift of $5,000 to Hayata Destek to their Technology for Girls Education campaign. And we'll talk a little bit more about that over the next half hour. But to kick us off, Sema, can I actually invite you to tell us what is Hayata Destek, what is its mission, and what is the work that you do?
Sure, Elmira, thanks for the invitation. It's nice to be here. Okay, so about Hayata Destek, we are a humanitarian organization. That means we work with disaster-affected populations. And when we talk about disasters, of course, people think of natural disasters, but conflict-induced disasters are in fact a bigger problem. They displace more people, and we see the consequences over a longer period of time. So the need to provide humanitarian assistance changes depending on the type of disaster. So we look at a variety of needs, because at times of crisis in disasters, people lose almost everything they have. So we provide shelter, we provide food, we provide psychosocial support, education, livelihoods, depending on how long we engage with the affected population, and what kind of different needs there are. So this is basically what we do, and currently our biggest program is our refugee support program. Because of the crisis in Syria, we have quite a high number of refugees in Turkey, and we've been providing support for many years now.
Yeah, I mean, you along with a group of other people started the organization in 1997. Can you talk a little bit about how you identify, there obviously, like, the refugee crisis is a big major news event. How do you actually go about contacting the people that are in need, and what does that look like, so that people understand a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. For us, it all starts with assessing the needs. So at times of crisis, especially if people are displaced, we actually go and meet the people, the affected communities. We engage with them, with the men, the women, with the children, sometimes separately, with youth, depending on what kind of aid, what kind of assistance we want to provide. So assessing the needs is very important, because oftentimes what we think they need is very different from what the needs that they voice themselves. So we look at what the needs are, and then we look at what can we do as an organization, what can we provide, and then we kind of design an intervention, and we attach a budget to it. So we need resources to be able to do that, and then we go out and we find donors for it. At Hayata Destek, we work a lot with institutional donors, with institutional grants, like with the UN or with international NGOs. And once we secure the resources, the funding, then we execute. So we run our programs, and then of course we monitor and we evaluate, because we always we commit to a certain impact. We want to create an impact, so it's important that we also measure what kind of impact we create. So this is how the project cycle runs for an aid program that we run at Hayata Destek.
And I'm sure that this past year has been very challenging, on top of already the challenging work that Hayata Destek is already doing, but then having a global pandemic where we're all forced to socially distance and lock down. I'm sure that has presented a number of challenges. How has Hayata Destek grappled with the COVID-19 crisis?
As you say, Emma, I mean, already when we look specifically at the refugee population, they were already challenged. I mean, they've been displaced, not just physically, but psychologically. They've really felt the impact of that. And on top of that, I mean, they've already been traumatized. They're running from war and violence. And on top of that, the pandemic has made life really, really hard, really difficult for them. I mean, their livelihoods were very fragile. Many of them live on cash assistance, and many of them have lost their jobs as a result. So they have lower purchasing power. They're sliding more into poverty, and we have our field teams. We are closely monitoring the situation, because with changing needs, we also have to adjust and adapt our programs. And so we've noticed that that they have been particularly hard hit. So we have then had to modify our programming, because we're an organization. We have teams that interact directly with refugees. We visit them in their homes. They come to our community centers. There's a lot of interaction. So the pandemic has been really difficult in that sense, because it's distanced us, and for them, of course, it's given them a sense of further insecurity, losing that connection. But we've been able to adapt our programming. A lot of the information sessions, for example, we would do them in physical classroom environments. So we started developing videos, podcasts, different ways of reaching out to them remotely as well. So it's been a challenge for us as an organization, but even more so for the refugee population.
Great. I'd like to bring Onur into the conversation, because he is somebody who has backed Hayata Destek and gotten involved. Onur, can you talk about why you believe in Hayata Destek and its mission?
I think in order to tell you why we are supporting Hayata Destek, I think we need to talk about our small groups aim, or at least hope, what we want to do. This is a group of, mostly gentlemen, mostly working in finance area, and some physicians, some, pharma executives, some academic people. we passed information. I think I initiated the whole thing by telling people how great and beautiful to be able to help a girl in Turkey otherwise cannot finish or excel in their educational journey. I met with Paida a couple of years ago, and then I was convinced that if I support them, I will be supporting girls to excel in their educational journey. And I passed that information to our friends, and they got it right away. And then we collected more money, and then we found TPF, right? Because we were sending this money on our own through our bank accounts to whoever we know. Then we met with TPF. TPF is a great base for Turks living in the United States. Also, people who live in the United States who wants to help people in Turkey, like refugees or anyone. It's a great basis. TPF introduced us many great organizations to support. Our aim is to help girls, right, women in Turkey to excel in their educational journey with our support. And we are willing to do whatever is necessary, amongst us, and however power or however much power we have to support that mission. Because TPF reached us, now we know Hayata Destek, and we know they are also working with Turkey's girls to support their education. We are for it. We are supporting them for them to help those kids to get their educational journey to further.
Great. And when you learned about Hayata Destek through TPF, what was it specifically about the organization that you particularly wanted to support and then collaborate with? I mean, there are lots of organizations that TPF collaborates with that are focused on women and girls in Turkey.
I don't think we talked about why Hayata Destek. We raised money last year around this time, and then we raised some additional money at the end of the year. The money was sitting aside. That we do not like, right? We don't need that money sitting in TPF's funds or in our funds. It has to be used in the field. And you came up with Hayata Destek. Our group looked into that, and we are convinced that this is a good organization to support girls' education. We are for it.
Great. Sema, let me turn back to you. You have donors like Onur who support the work that Hayata Destek does. Can you talk a little bit about how that relationship works? How, Onur has this mission of supporting girls and women in Turkey, and they established this technology for girls' education. Can you talk about what is your relationship with donors?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank Onur for the compliments. It's wonderful to hear that the work we do. We're proud of the work that we do, but it's great to hear that others also find it valuable. For us, like I said, we work with institutional donors, with donors that have a more rigid structure when it comes to funding programs. They want to see exactly what we're going to do, what our outputs are going to be, and it's a heavy a bureaucracy by the time we actually submit or we identify a need. and by the time the grants come in, they're time lapse. So what we like about working with TPF and donors like Onur is we can be a lot more agile. When we identify a need, we can intervene. For example, under our refugee support program, we facilitate access to services for refugees. But whenever we identify cases that need help, we give them that information, because oftentimes the information is lacking. So they don't know how to go and register their kids. They don't know how to get an appointment from the hospital or whatever. But then once we do share that information, oftentimes we can't solve their problems, because then there are always additional resources that are needed, whether it's a medical device, or whether it's transportation costs, or whether it's litigation costs for a legal aid case, or whether it's tablets and computers for education. So it's one thing to actually register or help register a child, a girl or a boy, to a school, but it doesn't end there. And these different needs start coming up, and this need for tablets was something we identified, because our assumption initially was that if we register the kids, especially this was of course before the pandemic, then that would solve a part of the education problem. But it doesn't end there. So we identify these additional needs, or these additional complementary actions that we need to take, but we don't have the funding for necessarily, for within the grant programs that we apply for, and grants that we get. So this kind of individual donations just helps us be more agile and respond more quickly to the needs that we identify, because like I said, needs are ever changing, and our assessment teams are constantly coming up with different cases and different needs. So so it's a great help in that regard.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you formulated this technology for girls' education, which is something that our call to action today for those tuning in. As I mentioned earlier, the organization that Onur founded will match $5,000 to this particular project. And so Sema, can you talk a little bit about the project and how that came about?
Sure. Our field teams, so we have our teams on the ground that are assessing the needs, like I said, but they're also executing, implementing our activities. And they carried out an assessment to see how the pandemic had affected the refugee population. And they actually identified almost 800 children who did not have access to the devices that they needed for distance learning. And when we look at what are those obstacles, apart from the fact that they don't have their computers and their laptops and tablets, of course we saw other problems coming up. Families not wanting to send their children to these support units in each province. There are support units for refugees that can go and access relevant information. There's a EBA system, maybe you've heard of that. It's the government's distance learning system, and the government is trying to facilitate refugee children to make use of that distance learning tool. But families were not wanting to send their children there. There are problems with enrollment problems. Some children just did not have any access to school. Some of them don't have registration, and when they don't have the ID card, that's a whole problem altogether. So just looking at what are some of those obstacles specific to education, because that's an area that we work on. So we came to realize that we could partially facilitate distance learning by providing both the tablets, but also the internet access, because it's not only about having the device, but it's actually being connected as well. And our field teams then are in connection with these students. So what we do is, once we give them the tablets, then we also use these tablets to conduct various sessions with them, to help them support their learning, or we've also carried some of our psychosocial programs. We have these sometimes structured, sometimes not so structured programs that we run with refugee children. So we've actually been using these tablets to also provide that distance learning, and not just, it doesn't just enable them to access the government program, but our own programs that we run. So we've been able to do that as well.
Onur, can you talk about how the organization that you founded, Turkey's Educated Kids, is working on this particular project, the Technology for Girls Education?
This is, Sema and her organization found out that this is a very crucial issue during pandemic. Even after pandemic, it's going to be very crucial. We found out this last year. We were thinking about how can we support more to these kids. And then we were in talk with PAYDA, Çağdaş Yaşamı Destekleme Derneği, and then we talked with them, and they came us with some programs. And then we just thought, and then we figured it out that these kids are at home. They're not able to go to school and continue their learning at their school. And their homes, like, I know many of them have like 6, 7, 8 brothers and sisters living in 1 or 2 room houses. And it's very important for this family and for this kid to have tools to continue their education. And we said we would be providing computers and year-long internet access, for that year of 2020, for these kids to be able to reach out to their education sources. Also, think about this is a remote village. These kids having internet access, not only one person we are supporting is going to have that internet access. All these people at home, other kids will have that internet access. And I heard, stories, the big sister is, completing her study, and then small, the younger one taking the tablet or computer and going into their programs and, completing their education. Also, they have access to internet now, like internet where they can learn everything. They can see the world. These kids, many of them have not been going out from their villages or small cities, right, in southeast Turkey, so on. And then now they are willing to go out with their access to technology. And when we heard Hayata Destek is doing the same thing, it's no-brainer, right? You don't have to question why they are doing it, what Hayata Destek is. It's the make sense support to these kids, for them to be not only kids, but for their families and for their close by circle to be able to reach out to internet, education, and other resources available on internet.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's profoundly important. I mean, we all know that there's a worldwide gender gap between boys and girls throughout the world. And that is especially true in Turkey. So this is definitely a project that can help bridge that divide. And it's one that's very, very much needed. In the last few minutes that we have in our session here, I'd love to ask you, Sema, looking forward, Hayata Destek, what are some of the things that you're going to be working on over the next year?
Just before I go into that, Elmira, I'd like to add a few words to what Onur said. I think it's really, really important because children in a family, especially in a foreign country where the parents don't always speak the language or not as quickly as the kids do. So they're a great support to the family. So we have been able to reach out to families through smartphones. Everyone has a smartphone nowadays, but having a tablet in the home really makes a difference. I mean, we've been able to carry most of our educational communication information material. We've developed them in different shapes and forms, so that we do reach out to more people. So it's important with devices like that we're actually able to reach out to a much broader population. So I just wanted to emphasize that's a very important point. In terms of the needs, of course, for the refugee population, I mean, they've been in Turkey now for quite a number of years, and they are looking, most of them are looking ahead. They want to see what they can do in Turkey, as opposed to dreaming of going back. Many have unfortunately lost that hope. So we're helping them build a new life. And for families, it's really important that their children are enrolled in Turkish schools, because initially there were Syrian schools, and families they would prefer to send them to Syrian schools, because they would say, well, we're going back anyway, so no need for anything else. But now they are keen to send their children to Turkish schools. So it's very important that we support that process. It's a process of social cohesion. In Turkey, everyone is now has accepted the fact that we will be living together with a majority of the Syrian population that's here. So it's very important that we do help them integrate. We help them normalize their lives in Turkey, and to help them look ahead, because most of these children then will be doing higher education. They will be contributing to Turkish society. So so some of these longer term perspectives, also supporting livelihoods, that's a very important one. We also try to for Syrian youth that have finished universities, we try to look at what internship programs that we might be able to establish for them, to help them facilitate going into the workforce. So this is going to be an issue. It will be around for quite some time in Turkey.
That's great. And once again, to our viewers, our call to action today is for the Hayata Destek Technology for Girls Education, which the Turkey's Educated Kids organization will match $5,000 to. So you can go onto the tpf.org donors page and donate there. As you can see, as you've heard over the past half hour, this project in particular will be providing fulfilling technological needs that have been a huge gap in Turkey, given the COVID-19 pandemic, but then also in rural areas where internet access and access to technological tools have been a really great challenge. As we round up our half an hour, Onur, I'd love to ask you to what would you like the donors to TPF to know about either TPF or this particular project?
As I said, it's no-brainer to help girls to get their education. Otherwise, they cannot get as well. When you educate a girl or help a girl or woman to get education, you help a whole family, whole town. When you educate a man, you just save one person. In order to save families, towns, cities, a country, please educate women. And I am Turkish and I have a stake in Turkey. That's why our group is very eager to support any initiative that fulfills this will and mission.
Great. And I think most viewers here and followers of TPF know that we had kicked off the Color Turkey auction this past month. We had a really terrific event earlier this month. And so you can actually donate to Technology for Girls Education that Hayata Destek is, that's the campaign that Hayata Destek is focused in on. But we also encourage you to go onto the Color Turkey auction and support other efforts on the way. There are a number of really terrific giveaways. I know you can get a signed Fenerbahce shirt if anybody wants to bid on that and then give it to me. I will gladly wear it. And we thank you for tuning in again. And thank you to Sema and Onur for telling us more about Hayata Destek, a wonderful organization that is working on a number of different areas in Turkey, and their campaign focused on technology for girls education. Sema and Onur, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for, just letting us get together and explain why we are doing it.
Thank you very much, Elmira, and to TPF and Onur. It's been a pleasure meeting you and the tech group. You're doing a wonderful job. Thank you very much. It's highly appreciated.
Great. And that concludes this session of Voices of Partners. Please follow TPF on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. And our next Voices of Partners event will be on April 14th. So I look forward to seeing you all then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.